and I can't hold it much longer. Gotta let go so I can be free.
Uh-oh. All three of us, same spot. Todd Kratz, Braun. Reminder to everyone, today is not the last foul territory of the week. Why is that?
Because Todd isn't coming to the BBWs. Let's go.
Oh, that's pretty cool, man. 100th annual.
Yeah.
Dude, there's so much that's cool about this. Like, I can't stop. Like,
first time streaming live in 100 years.
Is he gonna? That's incredible. Is he gonna wear a suit and tie like for a change? Jesus,
mandatory.
I can't wait. Just make sure it's fitting. I don't want the one he wore back in 2008 when he was trying to get a job. I want one that's cupped nice. You know, he's sweating a little bit because it's too tight. Let's go.
You want it? Would you rather it be a little too tight on the suit for Kratz or a little too loose?
Not too loose is. I have those loose ones from back in the day. I call them the Steve Harveys. I have those.
We're having Neal Huntington on, and when I got called up, like the rule was still like khakis to the field, dress shoes to the field, suits on the planes. So I got called up. We had like a 6-game homestand. Mm-hmm. Went to my guy Jose Bank right down the street in Pittsburgh.
Jose,
Jose.
Went up there. I'm like, what? I get 3 suits for $186?
Never again.
And they can throw in like 9 shirts, 6 ties. Good night. I put those on the other year. Them Johns look like
nightgowns.
Like Biggie Smalls in a rap video. Just like
it was cool back in 1994.
It was cool.
You know what I mean?
Cool. Had to get them tailored.
I still kept 2 of them. And I'm like, why did I ever wear this? This was huge on me.
Did you have 4 buttons or 5 buttons? Did you have one of those?
I don't remember, if you want the truth. But I'm thinking to myself, Mike, this is crazy. But, hey, listen, 100th annual, first time it's streaming. I wish I can go, but honestly, you guys are going to have a blast, and I wish you guys the best. You're going to have a good time.
Don't be afraid to put it on at the Pong tournament. You got your Pong tournament.
I got the Pong tournament.
There's
we'll talk about, and it'll be over by then. His Pong tournament will be over probably by the time that we've got our show.
So then when you leave the place, the establishment that it's at, make sure all the TVs have the awards. This is where the big dudes are getting their awards.
It's going to be great.
Todd Father's Pong tournament. There's some info if you're looking on the screen. If you're listening to the pod, we'll give you more info at the end of the pod. Let's get to the news. There's a lot of news, actually. I was on a flight for a few hours, and I'm like, boom, that would lead off the show. Boom, that would lead off the show. Boom, that would lead off the show.
Not today.
We're going to start with the Atlanta Braves charging the mound.
He's charging the mound.
Jurickson Profar, 3 years, $42 million. That's a good raise from his 1 year, $1 million contract and guarantees that he signed last offseason with the San Diego Padres, coming off a year in 2023 where he was cut by the infamous Colorado Rockies. What a turnaround for Profar. He was good in 2022, bad in 23.
Yeah.
And he had a career year this past season. Exit velocity went up about 5 miles an hour. The Hammer Territory podcast put out a breaking news show last night, and I listened to the whole thing, and they were pointing out how sick of a year Profar had. They said picking up 5 miles an hour of exit velocity is almost like a pitcher picking up 3+ miles an hour of velo. So props to him. He was on base a ton. What do you think about this move for the Bravos when Acuna comes back? Todd Father, you got Acuna, Michael Harris, Jurickson Profar in your outfield.
And you got Kelenic as the 4 guy.
Yeah,
right? So
that's your depth.
That's a pretty good outfield. Good little depth chart, I think. I think it's a great sign for him. I don't know about you because you're the numbers guy when it comes to this. I didn't see this coming, this much money, but I did. I thought he should have gotten a raise. Don't get me wrong, and I'm happy for him. Make as much as you can. The guy is an absolute stud. To do what he did in Colorado and then all of a sudden take off on a 1-year deal, another guy that said, you know what, I just want to play. I want to prove myself again. 1 year for $1 million, incredible. And I'm proud of him. I don't know him that well. Every time I saw him, we'd always, give each other love and respect. But for him, this is the culmination of, when he first came up, another big name, another Little League World Series legend.
That's right.
Oops.
That's right.
Oops. Yep. He did it twice, though. He went. He made it to the championship twice.
Your brother about that.
And he was in. He put his name on the map early in his career, and now he's putting his name on the map late in his career. I am on one. I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm just feeling good about
I just
myself.
learned Jurickson Profar's entire career timeline with Todd Frazier, but he was supposed to be a superstar, Kratz. Remember, he was famously put ahead of Bryce Harper on some prospect lists, and it never worked out, although he's been in the league for a minute in a variety of roles, but we never saw him like we did last year.
I'll be honest. I'm a hater. I was a hater on him when he got his job last year.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think he should be out of baseball. But, the whole $1 million, people don't understand $1 million as a big league contract. Guys that just get called up are getting $720,000. It's not like dudes are making $500,000 or $250,000 who are just getting called up. He was essentially making a first-time call-up amount of money. And to then turn it into what he turned it into, I never saw it coming. I honestly didn't think the guy was worthy of a big league deal last year. And he went out and not only proved me wrong, he had no idea I was hating on him, but he proved everybody else wrong too, for the fact that you can now turn it into $40+ million, a 3-year deal. You talk about the numbers. I honestly thought he would be, if he was a 3-year deal guy, I thought he was going to be like an opt-out after the first year type of thing, like prove it one more time. And he's just always been in the big leagues. So he's finally culmination of learning what he needs to learn to take his pitches. He's going into another great lineup. He's not a marquee guy in a lineup. He's a piece in a lineup. And I think it's just going to help him because he's going to another great team.
There's some more information from David O'Brien from The Athletic. He said they'll have Profar in left field. Jared Kelenic, who lost his spot towards the stretch of the season last year to Ramon Laureano, is going to have first dibs on right field until Acuna returns. And Profar isn't a platoon player. As Alex Anthopoulos said on the call last night, they've had significant outfield injuries on a season-by-season basis. Kelenic can also play center field. He can back up the corners. He and Brian De La Cruz also have minor league options. Yeah, I know. And then the Braves believe that Profar's swing adjustments, added leg kick, etc., were big difference makers for him last year. The way he used his lower half, they think contact rate, walk rate, strikeout rate were always good. Now he's added exit velo and power, and that it's sustainable. Someone else brought up how Alex Anthopoulos had Josh Donaldson and Jose Bautista up in Toronto. Both of them had their best work in the second half of their careers, right? They had some type of swing change or lower half change or philosophy change as far as hitters that took them to an entirely different level to make them superstar players at one point in their careers. So he likes these kind of guys.
He sees that value. He sees, again, Neal Huntington's coming on. Neal Huntington got rid of Jose Bautista. They didn't see what was coming, but I also think different guys hear different things from hitting coaches.
Of course.
Jose Bautista heard it from Dwayne Murphy. So whoever it is for Profar, you hear something different. Hey, you know what? You have great strike zone discipline. Use it. That's the biggest thing for me. Use your strike zone discipline. That doesn't mean you take a bunch of pitches. It means you take an absolute ghetto hack at the ball that you want before 2 strikes. And he did that. I think there was a day when people would have been skeptical if a guy raised 5 miles per hour on his exit velocity. It's not like dudes just all of a sudden, you know what, I haven't been in the gym for a little bit. I'm going to raise that. So for him to raise that, you have to do a significant mechanical change, but also a significant approach change. And he got paid.
God bless him. Good for him.
Yeah. He's going to get $12 million this season and then $15 each of the next 2 years after that. Remember, they traded away Jorge Soler. The money on a per-year basis kind of got close there where it matches up. Soler wasn't fitting in the Braves' current construction. You can't have Jorge Soler and Marcell Ozuna on the same team. Soler is a DH on a playoff contender, which is why I'm still a little questionable about the Angels move. I love him there, but I need Mike Trout to get DH time, but that's another story. Anyway, for the Braves, what do we like right now? Like, where do we rank them, and what's next? And I'll give you some context. One more note from Alex Anthopoulos on his call. The GM, or President of Baseball Operations now of the Braves, said they have payroll flexibility to add to the rotation and the bullpen. He said they're not close on a deal. He made it clear that any starter would have to make sense for them to block Holmes, Anderson, etc. So David O'Brien personally said he's guessing that they add a reliever and no significant big money starter or mid-level starter really with the market the way it is at this point. AKA, it doesn't sound like the Braves are suddenly going to sign Jack Flaherty or even a Lance Lynn type. They're feeling good with Grant Holmes, who really came out of nowhere last year, and then Ian Anderson to bounce back. And they have some other rotation depth, too. Guys in the minors who we always talk about.
I mean, the Braves always have guys that we don't even talk about. Like, dudes like Smith Shawver when he came out of nowhere the other year. Ian Anderson had huge innings for them in the postseason when they won the World Series. You hope he bounces back. But the Braves just have constant depth. Rarely do they have to go into that Kyle Gibson, Lance Lynn type of territory. I thought this year would be a year that they did because they didn't bring back Charlie Morton. I just am afraid of a team that is going to go deep into the season, deep into the postseason, that doesn't have somebody that's going to eat innings. And you can't always ask, look what happened to Bryce Elder, all-star. Second half kind of fell off. You can't always ask young guys to come in and say, I need 180 innings. It's Soroka did it the other, few years ago now. It's hard to ask young guys, but they have a bunch of them, so you got to kind of piece it together. And then a Lance Lynn slash Kyle Gibson type, I felt like that's the route they were going to go. But based on this, maybe not. Maybe it's young guys and then Spencer Strider whenever he gets back.
Yeah, and they're going to have a solid little club. I mean, this NL East is going to be really tricky because, besides the Marlins and Washington, the Mets have really done some damage, good damage of picking up players. So the Phillies are going to be there. I want to say something nice about them since I got Kratzy next to me. I do see Atlanta fighting for one of those top spots, but I ultimately right now, if I had to choose, I would be in the AL East. I would think they were number 3, behind
NL East,
NL East, the Phillies and the Mets. So,
what's your top 3?
It would be right now. It'd be Mets, Phillies, and Braves.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. How about you?
I think it's Phillies. Braves, Mets.
That's how I have it for regular season. I think.
Well, that's what I was saying.
The way they're positioned for the playoffs could look different, but yes, regular season I got.
You got the Mets third, huh?
Phillies, Braves, Mets.
I think they get a little short in that 4th, 5th starter.
Okay.
6th, 7th inning. I think they're still a little short. There's time and there's dudes out there.
Yeah.
We're not talking about free agents right now, but there's time and dudes out there.
I just think they got a good taste of last year, how they came on strong, and they want that more. I'm not saying the other 2 teams don't either, but I feel like this is like, all right, guys, this is where we should be. It's time to take off, and I think this is the year that they kind of separate themselves from in the NL East.
I think the Phillies have a postseason problem with their offense. I've been talking about this a lot lately. I do, but I don't care. That doesn't have to do with the regular season. Their stars are going to beat the crap out of plenty of pitching in the regular season, and their starting rotation is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's not getting talked about enough. Right now, we're looking at the Dodgers and going, oh, they're full of number 1s and aces and all of that, but they're not workhorses. The Phillies guys are mostly workhorses too. Nola posts, Wheeler posts, Suarez usually posts. I mean, last year he went through it a little bit, right?
Every year he runs into a little something.
Okay.
He runs into a little back, a little trap, something. It's a 160 inning. A couple years he should have won the Gold Glove. He missed it by like 2/3.
Yeah, that was a joke.
It's he was coming out of the bullpen too. So he's made those adjustments, but Christopher Sanchez.
I like that.
Sixto was
Christopher's
traded.
great. Yeah.
Christopher's great. Jesus Luzardo. Obviously, he's more of that like Dodgers ilk where you're like, hey, if we can get 160 innings out of him, that is elite. Make sure he's ready. And then they have Andrew Painter waiting in the wings, who is literally untouchable in trades.
He's either the best or probably second best, whatever you want to call it, him and Jackson Jobe, pitching prospects in the sport right now. Guys who are still prospects. All right, we'll step aside. If you're watching somewhere online and you can comment, then let us know where you have the top 3 in the NL East stacked up. We're going to talk to, there you go, Hammer Territory, by the way, put out an entire episode on Jurickson Profar, the career year Silver Slugger, all-star appearance, 24 homers last year, the whole deal. Also, they went over his clutch stats, which are really good. So check out their latest episode. It's also in the Foul Territory pod feed. All right, swinging right back with Chandler Rome, who's got tons of fresh information on the Astros moving and shaking. All right, YouTube fam, we're here for a few minutes. This story alone would do, a good segment for us on a non-busy day. Did you guys see Anthony Santander's contract details come out yesterday? So 5 years, 92.5. We talked about it when it happened. It broke right around when we had the show a few days ago. $62 million deferred. $62 million. So the actual deal is worth $68.6 million, not $92.5 million, because of the massive amounts of deferrals on a per year basis, meaning he's actually only about a $14 million a year player. So it's a much lower signing in terms of value for the Blue Jays.
How do we look at that? Do we look at this the same way we look at Shohei? Shohei massively defers $680 million of his contract.
Yeah.
What a great teammate. All he cares about is winning. Mm-hmm. He left so much money on the table. Are we sitting there doing the same thing with Santander?
Yeah, I'm crying like a baby in the corner. Wah, wah, wah. The Dodgers are doing all the deferrals. Wah, wah, wah. So are the Blue Jays. So are the Nationals. Plenty of players have deferrals. It's going to continue to be a popular thing, especially in certain regions where they tax like crazy. This is a way to get around it. Most of these players can get signing bonuses and deferrals in other places, so they can get around the ridiculous tax rates in some of these places.
Yeah. Most Venezuelans live in Orlando, in Miami, somewhere in Florida in the offseason. So that's where he's going to live when he's done playing. At the end of this contract, he's going to get $61.75 million in Orlando.
Correct. There's tons of players, and also we only look at the deferrals, but the signing bonus can do the same thing. Like Manny Machado's recent extension. I mean, he got a massive signing bonus. He lives in Florida, and I'm just using him as an example because he's a superstar. There are a ton of deals like this. So the deferral crying and the signing bonus crying is embarrassing. It is. It's part of our game for a long time. You're just hearing more about it because almost every player is getting involved with it because the taxes are ridiculous. This actually helps to counter some of these other states that can make offers to major league players, like a team in Florida or a team in Texas, where they have a significant advantage. They might have a 15% advantage on a contract offer because of a crappy tax situation in another state. Until they switch the rule, this is how it's going to be. But it's not just the Dodgers.
Teams love this.
Yeah.
And if you ever look into exactly how the Blue Jays pay guys, half loonies and toonies, half American dollars, a little more when the Canadian dollar is stronger, a little less. We'd be talking a little bit more about Shady McGrady going on there.
And great for the Blue Jays. They have room to spend more.
I blame Bobby Bonilla.
All right, FT is back with the Athletics' Chandler Rome and the FT Network's Chandler Rome. Make sure you check out Crush City Territory with Chandler, Tyler Stafford, and Josh Reddick. Great episodes out there, especially a few this week, including with Bryce Matthews, one of the top prospects in the Astro system. Anyway, Chandler, great to talk to you. You've been very busy over the past 24 hours. So let's start with your fresh report on where they are with Ryan Pressly and maybe even Alex Bregman returning to the team.
Yeah, so it's going to go live here in a little bit. It's going through the editing process right now, but there's fresh reporting coming from Sahadev Sharma, Patrick Mooney, and myself, Sahadev and Patrick, both of Northside Territory on the FT Network. Not a ton of revolutionary stuff, but, Ryan Pressly is still weighing his options. Another team has emerged as probably a suitor there. The Detroit Tigers are a team that has talked about, trying to acquire Ryan Pressly, who has 10-5 rights, which means he can veto a trade. He's got a full no trade clause. So it does seem to me, though, that if this is going to happen, that the Cubs are going to be the destination if he agrees to the trade. Also, at the same time, the Cubs are pursuing Alex Bregman, as are the Astros, as was reported last night by multiple outlets, including The Athletic, that the Astros are back in on Alex Bregman. And it sounds like, obviously, if they get Alex Bregman back, They're going to have to reshape a lot of their infield. Alex Bregman's going to go back to playing third base. Isaac Paredes would probably move to second, and it sounds as if it's under consideration that Jose Altuve would move to left field if Alex Bregman does, in fact, return to Houston. But it doesn't sound like anything is imminent in that department, the Bregman department. The Cubs are after him. There's 5 teams that I understand that are in on Alex Bregman, and it's the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, the Tigers, the Astros, and the Cubs. So of those 5, we could see some stuff start to maybe simmer and come to a head maybe this weekend, but certainly his market is starting to crystallize in a way that it hadn't for the last couple of weeks.
Chandler, you brought up so much there. I can't even I just wanted to ask you about Ryan Presley
yeah.
and the Astros. Let's hit on that for just a second for me. Are they you know what? We're fine downgrading part of our bullpen just to save a little cash. Or is it now that maybe, he accepts one of these trades, now we can go and get Bregman? Or is it doesn't even apply to Bregman, we're cool if we save money and downgrade our bullpen? That's what I'm confused about. Why would they be that interested in doing that?
It's really confusing, Eric, because all winter, people with the team, people I talk to that are familiar with Jim Crane's thinking, the owner, have been insistent that he does not want to cross the competitive balance tax. They paid the luxury tax last season. He was not interested in paying it again as a repeat offender, and that is part of why Kyle Tucker got traded. That is why they have been aggressively shopping Ryan Presley and his $14 million. It was in an effort to curtail that payroll that has really gotten high. Now, this was the same sort of stuff you heard last year, too. You heard this last winter that they didn't want to cross the CBT, that was something they were trying to stay away from. And then all of a sudden they gave Josh Hader $95 million and were okay with paying the CBT. In Jim Crane's ownership tenure, it really has been that he has been okay to pay the luxury tax. It just has to be for a move that he determines as kind of the thing that puts the cherry on top, a real meaningful addition. And I think what Alex Bregman means to this franchise, what Alex Bregman has meant to this golden era, and what Alex Bregman means in that clubhouse. You guys saw how vocal Jose Altuve was all season at the end of the season about retaining him. Would not be surprised if they kind of throw caution to the wind and say, you know what, we'll cross it for Alex Bregman. But I don't think they want to cross that second CBT threshold, because as we stand right now, with Presley on the roster and without Alex Bregman on the roster, they're already about $3 million over the first threshold. So I think if this plays out as we're talking it's going to, I think they'd want to avoid crossing that second CBT threshold. But make no mistake, as of last week, as of all winter, all indications from people I had talked to was that they were going to get under the tax completely. And it sounds like for Bregman, that Jim Crane may make an exception.
Is Jim Crane too involved here? Does it feel like he's too involved? Is he getting in the way? I mean, I get it, you're the owner, but we've seen some bad situations where ownership gets too involved and, feelings either way, good or bad. It's like, do we feel like that's what's happening right now in Houston?
Well, Jim's always been an involved owner. I mean, you guys saw it in the 2022 offseason. They're still paying for him being an involved owner with $31 million in dead money to Rafael Montero and Jose Abreu. I think his influence in baseball operations has decreased a little bit. You've seen in some of the moves Dana Brown has made. Trading Kyle Tucker is not a Jim Crane. It doesn't scream to me that that's a Jim Crane decision or a Jim Crane move. Some of the stuff Dana has been able to do at the trade deadline, I think his presence has diminished, or his influence, I should say, in baseball ops has diminished a little bit. But when you start talking about Bregman, when you start talking about the luxury tax, when you start talking about that kind of stuff, those are decisions that ownership is involved in no matter what franchise we're talking about. we could be talking about the Cubs, the Blue Jays, any franchise. That's an ownership level call as to, are you going to pay the CBT? Are you going to extend, if my thinking is, if Alex Bregman comes back to Houston, it would take the largest free agent deal of Jim Crane's ownership tenure to get that done. And that's not in no franchise can you give out the franchise's longest and most lucrative free agent deal without consulting the owner. So to answer your question, I think his influence has honestly diminished a little bit in baseball ops, but I think this situation, and especially with Bregman, I think he's going to have a say.
For the record, I'm okay with his involvement because I've spoken to him before. He actually knows ball. Sometimes you talk to a helicopter owner and they have no idea what they're talking about. And you're
totally knows.
This person cannot be involved with any decision making. So they've been really good. But anyway, all right, let me ask you specifics about Bregman. Number one, is that 156 that they made public through many people still on the table for Bregman? Is that the offer and the stopping point offer that if he calls them right now and says, fine, I'm in, I'll take that, then we would have a deal? And two, can you give us more on the aftermath of what that would mean for, say, an Altuve to move to left field and how Paredes would look at second base, how that would affect the team defensively?
My understanding is I talked to one source yesterday that said yes, that offer remains. It also makes common sense too. Like, I know Bregman turned it down already, but if the Astros are going to re-engage here, like, it wouldn't make sense for them to go back in with a lower offer. What I'm unsure of, and this kind of ties back to Erik's question just now, I'm unsure about how much flexibility there is to maybe change that offer to if they ask for another year, if they ask for more money. I'm not sure if this is the offer and we're done, or if there is flexibility to move and room to move. Now, that could also be determined by the other four teams involved here. Like, what are they offering, and would that influence the Astros to maybe up their offer or anything like that? As far as the aftermath of a potential, I've been told that yes, it is under consideration that Jose Altuve could move to left field. That's wild to me. I mean, it just in terms of moving the face of your franchise off of the only position he's ever really played. He's played 6 major league innings at shortstop. The rest of his major league defensive innings have all been at second base. Never played in the outfield in the minor leagues. But it should be noted that Jose Altuve's defensive metrics at second base have pretty precipitously declined the last couple of years. And when you start to look at this rotation, Framber Valdez and Hunter Brown are your top 2 starters, and they induce almost as many ground balls as any starting pitcher in the league. And it's tough when you've got an infield. Their infield last year was not good. I mean, they had a reigning goal. They had the Gold Glover at third base, but the right side of their infield was not good last year. Between their revolving door at first base and then Jose Altuve at second, just not the defensive player he once was. So to me, it makes sense that I think they were going to have to move Altuve off of second base eventually. Does this hasten that? Maybe. Isaac Paredes, it's not as if he's played a ton of second base in the big leagues. I think he's got about 53 starts at the major league level at second base, but so he can move over there. I'm not sure Isaac Paredes hasn't played in the outfield at all in the big leagues either. So it's stuff that they'd really have to move some stuff around. It would be a lot of spring training work for Jose Altuve to learn an entire new position. But it is worth noting too, they play 81 games at Daikin Park, where the Crawford boxes in left field really help maybe hide bad defensive left fielders. They play Yordan Alvarez at Daikin Park in left field a good bit. They've been able to hide maybe some lower tier defenders in left field at home. So that would help, but it would still be a massive change for Jose Altuve and the Astros.
On Ryan Presley, it seems like the Jays, to me, wouldn't be that good of a fit. I feel like he wants to be that closer again. The Tigers and Cubs, for me, I think would be a better fit for him. What do you think's going on in his head for that whole situation right now?
Todd, it's very similar to me to what happened with Arenado and the Astros about a month ago. I see this situation as pretty similar in the fact that I think both teams, when I talk about the Cubs and the Astros, kind of thought that this was done. Same the way that the Cardinals and the Astros thought that the Arenado deal was done. And they went to the player with the no trade clause, and he was like, hold on just a second. Like, I have the final say here. And I think Ryan Presley's still weighing his options now. In fact, I know that. I've talked to a couple of sources that are familiar with his thinking that say he's still weighing his options. Make no mistake, like, he really values Houston. Like, he likes being here. His wife is from Houston. Both of his kids were born in Houston. And it's not lost on him kind of the legacy that he has built in Houston. I mean, it's not a stretch to say that he's one of their most clutch postseason relievers ever, if not the most clutch postseason reliever the Astros have ever had in their greatest era of baseball. So does he want to leave that? Because, I do wonder too whether having a year under his belt as the setup guy, because let's face it, like, they said all the right stuff last year. Everyone said all the right things when when they signed Josh Hader, but it was a tough adjustment for Ryan Presley. I mean, he got demoted, honestly, for no fault of his own. He was great in 2023. It's just that they wanted to build a three-headed monster at the back end of their bullpen, and Josh Hader came in. He's younger, and he's obviously got the pedigree, and they made him the closer. And that can be tough. That can be tough for anyone to swallow when you get demoted for really no reason. So I wonder if now having a year of that under his belt, whether he would honestly be more amenable to a setup role, whether he's used to that, and whether that would honestly make him want to stay in Houston, whether he's okay with that. And he's like, you know what, my family's happy here. I like the franchise. He loves his teammates. He's beloved in that clubhouse. I wonder, honestly, if he'd be like, you know what, I'm fine being a setup guy. I'll just stay in Houston, and my family will be happy. I'll be happy. And but, there is always kind of the thought about the Cubs are on the come up. They've just acquired Kyle Tucker. They're engaged with Alex Bregman. That's a division that is very winnable. Maybe he can go there and be the closer. So I think he's weighing a lot of different things right now. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but there's definitely pros on both sides of you could talk yourself into either way, him staying in Houston or him going to Chicago. You could really make a compelling argument for either case.
I'd love to see him move just because I think he's a closer still, and I think he would thrive. And the Cubs desperately need a closer.
It's that old school closer too, as well. Yeah. He's not overpowering. He's going to throw.
No, his velo was down.
No, well, not even that. He was never the 97.
He was
plus.
95, 96, but last year Chandler was more 93-ish from Presley with the velo.
And he's never. And Todd, I think, has got onto something. Like, he's never been reliant on the fat. He's not the guy that's going to blow 98 by you. But his breaking balls are nasty.
That's it. It's the hammer. Yeah, and he rarely, when he throws that big 12-6er, that gets your eyes and the depiction off of that nasty slider that he has. So he's more slider, curve, fastball than fastball as his best pitch.
I actually know 33% fastball usage.
Yeah, and he's got me out a lot on those pitches.
Oh, that's why you know. But anyway, all right. So
we got a dinger to center.
Just want to point out, we can keep Chandler on for this. Let's show the board real quick. Crush City territory obviously is going to be all over. Chandler's been super busy. There's more coming out in The Athletic, but then you can also get a lot more insight on what's happening, even if you're not an Astros fan and you're like, wait, my team might be able to land Ryan Presley. You'll hear from Chandler, Tyler, and company soon on another episode of Crush City Territory. So, Chandler, thank you so much for joining us, man. Thanks for the insight, and get back to work. I know you're busy.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate you. Chandler Rome with us on FT. Coming up next, Pete Alonso rumors flying to Toronto. I did not say Crush.
Yes, you did.
I did.
I said Crush.
Did I say Crush?
Hard.
Shitty?
It's like saying Sunshine City. It's hard because the Crush City.
Well, you just think of Orange Crush. Good soda drink. You don't drink soda. I forgot with that body.
Soda either.
Brown bugs bite brown bears.
Listen, I gotta have like 2 or 3 sodas a month. That's not much, but it has to be with a glass of ice. Pepsi, oh man, I can go for one right now. You know what? I'm out of here.
I do like me a little club soda.
Here we go.
And some ginger ale.
You're definitely you're a Florida guy now.
Yeah.
I forgot. Here we go.
Nobody's judging you, Todd.
All right, so
I'm just saying
two
you got to
things.
have one at least a month.
I want to cap this conversation. Number one, do you guys think Jose Altuve should be thrown out to left field? Or some fans in the chat, including our buddy Susie, said, what about Paredes in left field, who's 9 years younger than Altuve? Not a terrible idea.
I did like that Chandler said he had 58, 53 starts at second base, Paredes.
Yeah.
But I feel like that was with the Rays, so it's like, we just got to get the best right-handed lineup we can out there. It doesn't mean it's a good idea. That's
Right.
a lot of movement. Hosey and left?
No.
Dude, the older you get, the closer you get to the bench. And now we're totally on the bench. Like, that's how it happens. I don't know. I get it. Hosey's had the little thing with his throwing at second, and it's gotten worse. Even when I played with him in Houston, it was there, and that was back in 16. I just fear going out there. Let's put it this way. If anybody can do it, we talked about Jose Ramirez never aging. Jose Altuve doesn't age.
No.
So I think he could do it and figure it out. I'm just afraid of what that's going to do to his body.
So which one do you want? You want Altuve at second and Paredes in left?
No, I want Paredes. I want Paredes to figure it out in left.
So Paredes in left.
Yes.
Agreed.
Paredes in left. Okay.
Don't change it.
I think Altuve is more athletic.
Agreed.
But I think Paredes has a chance to develop into that just because of what you said. He's 9 years younger.
Mm-hmm.
How old is Altuve?
36.
He's
now?
mid-30s, right?
That's bad.
34.
34.
35 in May.
Okay.
Oh, man. That's tough. And then people are like, are you kidding me? He's only 34, 35. You stand so much in baseball. You're moving, getting set. It's a beating. It's a beating.
It's just a different preparation.
Yeah.
I think you prepare differently. I don't know.
Yeah, you do.
It's a lot of work.
It's not like getting 15, 20 ground balls before a game.
Nope.
Todd wants lunch. We're spreading rumors. Top Father's like, we got to talk about Pete today. All right, we're going to.
We better.
There's some conflicting reports, but I'm
with the nuts or without.
I'm buying what some of my friends are selling. Andy Martino talked about how there's some pretty serious discussions picking up with Pete Alonso and the Toronto Blue Jays, and also Tim Healy, who is going to be the star of the show tomorrow night at the BBWAA Awards.
Is he?
The MC?
Yes, he is. He's the MC.
Stop
I hope
it.
he's got some
He's
good-
entertaining. He's got
Tim
jokes.
Healy, good for him. He's going up in the world.
He hired name that famous comedians writers to put together his
Yeah,
script.
okay.
Yeah,
I
you
don't
need.
think he did. But
I think he did.
I
Pete
feel like
Alonso, yes.
I was
ahead.
just going to say, I feel like these Pete Alonso reports are like deep in discussion. And other people are like, no, he's not. And other people are like, yeah, they are. No, he's not. So I don't know where to go. I don't know where to go with this.
Okay, well, I'll give you both sides. Tim Healy said Pete's deep in contract talks with the Blue Jays per source. He
I could see
believes
that.
an Alonso Mets breakup, or he'll only believe it when he sees it, but he thinks it's closer than ever to reality. And then Shai Davidi and Ben Nicholson-Smith from Sportsnet said, contrary to speculation, Blue Jays discussions with Pete Alonso and Max Scherzer not gaining momentum, industry sources tell. Ben Nicholson-Smith.
Listen, I hope he's in contract with one of these or somebody, because I don't care who it is now. People are missing out on a really good baseball player, a good defender, not a bad defender, a good defender, a guy, like I said before, he led the league in picking baseballs last year, saving his teammates out of the dirt. A guy that hits 30-plus home runs a year. A guy that's average isn't really that bad considering, where most people's averages are. This guy is a beast. He's fun-loving dude. He's going to wake up any city he's at. And if the Blue Jays come and say, boom, this is their offer we'll give you, okay, you got 24 hours. Most likely they'll say they'll go back to the Mets and whomever else, and we'll see what Cohen wants to do. But somebody needs to start giving this guy a real chance here to get on a team because it's starting to get a little late. We're at the 24th. We got less than 3 weeks until pitchers and catchers, right? Here we go.
Yeah, I'm down with that. I think, to me, I ask who needs him more, and if it's only the $7 million range more to go to the Jays, I don't think Pete does it. I think he's really looking for that fourth year and maybe like $11 million more, $12 million more to go to the Jays. And the Jays are clearly – they're willing to move around their, deferred money, all that stuff, move around all their payroll stuff to be able to fit guys in here. They don't need to. They have the cash. And he is a game changer. Whatever you think of his defense, whatever you think of his athleticism or his down year, up year, whatever, game changer. It's 35-plus homers. And look at what happened just a few years ago when they had Brandon Belt at first base, producing a 135 OPS. Changed this team.
Yes,
it changed the team and made a playoff team.
Sicilian in the chat said Toronto needs Pete Moore. I agree.
Thank you, Sicilian.
I agree. The Mets need him. The Blue Jays desperately need that kind of thump.
The Mets
I
want
really
him.
believe that.
Where's Vladdy going to go, though? I know we've talked about this.
Vladdy's going to Toronto for 1 year, and then he's probably
No,
bouncing.
this year. If Pete's there, they're putting him at third base?
Oh, yeah. Well,
base.
you're going to have a mixture here. You're going to get some third from Vladdy. You're going to get some first, and you're going to get some DH.
It's a good mixture, giving Pete a little break and then giving Vladdy a little break.
Right.
Vladdy's not DHing. No way in Vladdy's camp are you sitting there. To me,
Oh, yeah, I got you.
if he has 150 games at third base, look at what a quote-unquote poor defender that plays right field got last year. It's all about his hitting. So even if he is a poor third baseman, nobody ever gets good marks at first. Look at Christian Walker's outs above average at first base.
Is it not good?
It's not crazy because you just don't accumulate that many outs above average.
Mm-hmm.
Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is never going to be Matt Chapman. They're not asking him to be.
No.
Let's say he's just a straight average third baseman. An average third baseman that has probably 7 more years of potential MVP bat is way more valuable than an average first baseman or even a below average first baseman, or even a little above average first baseman with 7 years of potential MVP bat.
I get what you're saying, by the way. So Christian Walker was one shy of the lead for outs above average with Carlos Santana ahead of him at first base. But there's a world of center fielders, shortstops, and second basemen ahead of them, right? Their numbers were 13 and 14. I mean, you had 15, 16s, 18s, 19s,
and
20,
what was Christian's
21.
at? Christian Walker's.
Santana was 14. Christian Walker was 13. Yeah, they don't get the same type of value.
When you're talking about value, we're talking about the offseason. That's how teams look at it. What kind of value is this guy bringing? As far as first baseman goes, Carlos Santana, Christian Walker, easily, the best outs above average there. But they're not sniffing what the Blue Jays just picked up with Andres Jimenez. So for Vladdy's camp, he has to want to play third. Hey, you're going to DH today, Vladdy. He's going to be like, I don't think so.
Ish don't think so.
Don't think so. He wants 162 games. He wants 30 pumps. He wants to hit 310 with a 420 on base percentage.
You won't even give him a few DH days just to
as a team
get off his legs? Yeah.
A team, I definitely will.
He'll take a few. It's not going to make a difference if he takes a few. Did Soto do any
26.
DH days last year?
Yeah, he's still young.
I don't know. I didn't look at
Now I'm
I didn't look
curious.
at it. 26.
I mean, I couldn't no more than 5 for Soto.
That's all I'm asking for. I'm just saying I don't think that's a big deal, and that's going to
I don't know.
anything.
I don't know. I mean, to me, I think that number is 150. If you're playing less than 150, and if he can play 150 at no DHs.
No DH days for Soto last year.
I just think there is an understanding. John Schneider, my good buddy, would 100% understand if Vladdy said, Papi, I've known you since the minor leagues.
Mm-hmm.
This is my walk year. You can't take money off my table.
Love it.
And to me, DHing takes money off his table. Now, he can play first all year if they don't get Pete. We're kind of making it like Pete's already there. He can make money at first. He's going to make way more as a third baseman because it's not just awful at third. It's not elite, but it's not awful. And if he believes he can be good, I wouldn't bet against him.
Agreed.
Toronto you can make a case that the best defense in baseball in the past 2 seasons. They've
On
been
purpose.
that good. So I'm going to say we can take one step back so that we can have thumpers like Santander and Pete Alonso.
And
Let's balance it out, okay? You need more thump in the AL East. I like the Santander signing. I don't care what he does in years 4 and 5. The Blue Jays need to get back on track now while they've got Vladdy and Bo for one more season.
Yeah.
Are they a World Series looking team? No. But I think they at least need to put a playoff contender together. And last year's team was not that. You looked at that team on paper, you're like, this is not a playoff contender. And that's what happened.
They didn't make the playoffs.
They did not. They finished in last place in the division.
And it wasn't a lot of additions that they needed. They didn't need to make a lot of additions.
Right.
They subtracted Chapman, so they lost that defense. They subtracted Belt, which never got a job.
Weird.
Anyway, that's a whole nother.
Yeah, but okay. Santander, Pete, Jeff Hoffman, Andres Jimenez. That's a good offseason.
That is a great.
Yeah, I think
We're
it's
crapping
really-
on some teams doing nothing. That would be a really good offseason.
And the team-
Jimenez is a freaking stud at second base. And
Gold Glover.
he can play shortstop
Platinum.
when Bo leaves. Okay. Pete to add to Vladdy. Bo's going to bounce back. Varsho will return at some point this season. Santander is going to give you, if he's healthy, 35 plus home runs and great clubhouse vibes. Same with Pete too. The clubhouse boost on top of the power, plus Hoffman in the bullpen. who
Morale,
they
yep.
think is probably more of a sure thing than Jordan Romano, who had trouble staying on the field lately. for
And
them.
listen,
That's an upgrade.
when things go well, all of a sudden the Bo Bichette comes back alive a little bit. You know,
Oh, yeah.
you want to, all of it's contagious. I promise you that hitting is contagious.
We have a poll up on the chat. What free agent is most likely to not sign by the start of spring training? Bregman, Pete Alonso, Max Scherzer, Jack Flaherty. I voted. Pick one.
Flaherty.
Take one.
I picked Flaherty too.
Really?
I did. I voted already.
Golly.
We just had him on the show yesterday, but it's not about who I think should be signed last. It's based on the situation. Pete's been tied to a lot of rumors lately. It sounds like something's going to happen soon, right?
Yep.
I think Bregman's situation's going to get figured out pretty soon. Max Scherzer's an easier case because we know he's signing a 1-year contract and it's going to be in the $8 to $15 million range, depending on how teams are looking at his medicals. 15 is the going rate for, I feel good about medicals. It's an aging vet. It's Alex Cobb. It's Justin Verlander. It's Charlie Morton. So that's kind of the cap there. And maybe it's, a little lower based on how teams feel about his medicals because he hasn't pitched much lately. Jack's a more complicated case.
And Jack said it. We heard it from his mouth.
Yeah.
Dog, nobody's calling me. They're calling me to see, how I'm doing. His words, how are you doing?
Yeah, that's bad.
That's bad. Don't call me. Don't ask me how I'm doing.
Because you know what the call is about. How are you doing? Oh, you don't have anything? Oh, well, you can come here for a 1-year deal.
How are you doing? Dude, I'm stressed. I can't believe it. I don't have any offers. We'll take you.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
dirty biz, but he'll get it figured out. Here's one more reason why I think Jack fits that list. What happens in spring training more than anything else?
Injuries.
Arm injuries.
25.
Guys come back and they fall like flies. So you might have one team that loses a couple starters and says, oh, crap.
And-
that happens.
And it's not just Scott saying that there's injuries. Literally, the number is 27% of arm injuries for pitchers happen in spring training.
Yep.
That's
So,
crazy.
there you go.
Jack should be signed already if your team really wants to win.
They all should.
Just saying.
Mm-hmm. I agree. All right. Let's also get to a couple notes. We have a quote here from Chris Getz saying the GM of the White Sox, they've done most of the heavy lifting for adding to the roster. Possibility for an addition here and there. Most of these teams are waiting for a couple prices to come down, see if they can grab a veteran or two.
Which part of the heavy lifting did the White Sox do? Hey, they've done more than the Marlins. I mean, and I
the Pirates.
love
And the Mariners.
I love
the
the
Twins.
sock man. I love Mike Talker.
Yeah.
But what is the heavy lifting? The heavy lifting? What you can't? What? What
Not-
did they do?
Not sure.
Were they even involved in a big trade outside of the Garrett Crochet trade? Like
that was heavy lifting. They brought
that's not
in
heavy lifting.
big prospects. Yes, it was.
You did nothing for your big league team.
Exactly.
And I think you might have set your big league team back because who's going to eat the innings? You have to lift somebody. Somebody has to come in and eat your innings.
It's to be the rotating door.
You're just going to bring AAA dudes?
Hey, you struggled next.
I'm going to go read double. I'm going to read double down on my over under for wins for the
It's
White
tough,
Sox.
man. It's tough. You feel, if you're a player on there, you're great. You're playing in the big leagues. Don't get me wrong. It's great, but it's going to be like, here we go again.
A lot of the issue they had last year, where it probably was tough as a player, was the bullpen would come in. Same as the Rockies. You'd be like, we got a 3-run lead. I don't think it's enough.
Never.
And I just think I think that's where some heavy lifting needs to be done. Like, you still have some big league contracts that need to go to starting pitchers, bullpen guys. Let the position players learn. Let Kyle Teal come in and catch. Let him learn behind Corey Lee, or like kind of with Corey Lee, and then eventually take that position over.
Mm-hmm. All right, still to come on the program, we're going to talk to Neal Huntington, former general manager of the Pittsburgh Pirates. We'll be all over the Ippei Mizuhara audio, the fake phone call for it was a real phone call, but it was a fake story for the car loan, the whole deal. So we should be covering that next. And we will also cover the robo-ump situation in spring training later in the show. Yes, lots of news today.
The team that just won the World Series, and this was like the basis of the tweet, was the team that just won the World Series has made the most additions, and how everybody, it's like, well, they just defer money, they just do this and that. I was like, well, yeah, I mean, people want to go play in LA, they want to win. People want to play in Philly, that's an unbelievable place to go play and win. It's not that the only place that you can go and win. Like, yeah, you want to go play with Shohei, you want to play with Mookie, you want to play with Freddie. Those guys are awesome. You want to be around Kirsch. Like, those guys were incredible. I was lucky enough to spend 3 months with them and win the World Series. But there's other places to go that are Max is going to New York, the Yankees, unbelievable. Walker is going to Boston, unbelievable place to go and win. Houston, Philly, there's places to go that have won and are consistently in the playoffs and are consistently right there with the chance to win. And then there's everybody else that is kind of just sitting in limbo, and well, we're cutting payroll here, but adding here, and then but we're not really going to we're not doing anything else. But the team that just won the World Series has made the most additions, and you're like, how do they keep getting guys? Like, well, they're just getting better and trying to go back to back, which is very clearly what they're trying to do. And I just go back to back, but they got Shohei for the next 9 years. They've got Yamamoto for the next 11 years. They're going to have Sasaki for, I don't know how that works. I think it's the next 6 years at least. They have Blake for the next. So they're not trying to go back to back. They're trying to win as many as they can in that time frame. And then who knows what happens after that? But you got to respect, hey, we're not just all in for this year. We're all in for the next whatever it is, 9 years. I think Mookie has 7 more years on his deal. I don't know what Freddie's deal is. They got those guys and they're going to be there. And you got to appreciate the fact, damn, that's cool, but you'd like to see the other teams make the same additions, because you would think, okay, we got to catch this team. We need to go add. Well, the top team, they just added more pieces. And yeah, you'd hope that you got to catch them somehow.
In the weeds, $200,000 for your friend's car loan. Let's talk about Ippei Mizuhara's case. So there's some seriousness here. but there's also some ridiculousness. Prosecutors recommend a 5-year sentence for Ippei, the former interpreter for Shohei Ohtani, and $17 million in restitution, so payback to Ohtani, plus a little over $1 million back to the IRS, plus a $200 fine. I think he can only pay the $200 fine. I'm not even kidding on that one. I mean, he doesn't have money. He's in debt. Sentencing is February 6th, so it's coming up. He already was pleading guilty to bank fraud and filing false tax returns after stealing $17 million from Ohtani. For the people out there that have been the conspiracy theorists, look, I love a good conspiracy theory, but this dude stole money from Ohtani, and Ohtani didn't know about it. He's dumb rich. He's not paying attention to every cent. Look up the hundreds, if not thousands, of cases of when this has happened to rock stars, music people, actors, athletes, etc. We have a little piece of audio from Ippei calling Shohei's bank and pretending that he was Shohei, giving money to Ippei for his $200,000 car loan. So here was the audio released yesterday. The Athletic did amazing reporting on this. Evan Drellick, I think Sam Blum and others involved. But here's the minute clip.
Who am I speaking with?
Shohei Ohtani.
Thank you. How may I help you?
So I tried to log in to online banking, and it tells me that it's not available to me at this time, and I need to call.
Sure, I can take a look into that. Alrighty. And could you tell me the name of the payee and the amount of the transaction, please?
The person I'm sending to?
Yes.
It's for $200,000.
Thank you. Alrighty. Now, recently we come across a trend of fraud and scams, so we have been monitoring the online transactions closely to make sure our clients are not the victim of either. What is the reason for this transaction?
For a car loan?
Okay. You said it's for a car loan?
Yes.
Okay. What is your relationship to the payee?
He's my friend.
Shameful.
Wow.
That's bad. It's a lot of money that also was not all going to gambling, because that's the case he's trying to make for a shorter sentence, that, you know, he was being overworked, underpaid. He made $80K when the Angels first hired him, then bumped it up to $250K in 2022. Dodgers payroll had him at $500K. Plus, Ohtani gave him a Porsche to drive around as a gift. Plus, Ohtani was paying him separately on the side as well, additional money. He did not just steal money to pay off debt. There was proof of him getting money for dental work, 60 G's, among many other personal expenses. $325,000 to buy baseball cards on eBay. So we learned a lot in the reporting yesterday.
This is low. This is real low. I mean, man, you kind of hear it in his voice a little bit. He sounds kind of nervous doing it, but at the same time, you got to remember one thing: everything is clearly being recorded. Even when they say, "Please hold," well, you're going to be recorded on everything. So
they tell you that when you first make the
without
call.
a doubt. So
this call's being recorded because he routed routed
this
Ohtani's account info to his own email and phone number.
This would drive me off the roof. Lucky enough, he's got more money than anybody that I know of, but not. It's low. It's a low blow. It hurts, you know. And now, you know, for those people who was like, oh man, the Shohei was, you know, doing this and that, you know, it wasn't it. This guy, they got audio on him. This hurts because you bring somebody into the circle, man. Your inner circle's tight, yours is tight, and so is mine. And he must have been part of that inner circle, and he went and did him dirty like that. That's unforgivable.
And the whole argument of didn't make enough, you know, underpaid. The $500,000, we're not even talking about that. The $80,000 living the big league lifestyle. Guys have a tough time because they're around so much. You're going to nice dinners. You have to live in Anaheim, wherever they lived. It's expensive. The difference is not all the interpreters, a lot of the interpreters that I know and became friends with, all that stuff was paid for.
Mm-hmm.
The 80 was just, they pretty much pocketed all 80,000.
Right. They pay for your whole life, including, as some people are pointing out in the chat, and they're right. I read the article. So Ohtani gave him 60 G's to pay for dental work. He then kept that and then used Ohtani's debit card to pay for the 60
So
days.
he double
So he
crossed
doubled
him.
up on that.
Yeah, he
bad boy,
doubled
too.
up.
He
My
was
God.
he was
He had a
doing this
sickness.
left and right.
He had a sickness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it wasn't. But his whole
That's
thing
not an
was,
excuse
I'm
either,
betting.
though.
That's not your sickness when you're stealing money for everything. The U.S. government said this is a case of greed and stealing money. So that's where the battle is in terms of, him then putting out his reply to what was going on. He said, he was on call 24/7, severely underpaid. That was one in there that I think would hurt for most Americans to be able to read. Like, bro, severely underpaid.
Can't do that.
That's a tough one.
No,
Like,
especially
your
what's
legal
going on
team-
in the world today.
Exactly. Your legal team messed up on that one. We get it. Ohtani's rich as hell, but like, you were getting paid pretty well to be an assistant. Like, I had to get his mail. I had to do his grocery shopping. Okay, well, two things. One, you can get help with the amount of money that you were making. You can hire help. Also, there are tools available like Hungry Root for your personal shopping. I'm serious.
What?
You can order your groceries. You're making 500 plus G's with a car and then additional money from your dude. You do not have to be hitting up the grocery store yourself.
When did he come out with all these quotes? Was this recently?
This was last night.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I only saw hope in life while I was gambling from Ippei's Ippei's mouth. That's coming from his attorney or something, or
they
or
wrote
whoever's
this
calling him. Yeah,
super long letter that was put out there publicly.
you can't. They're trying to play it in a different role, like he was the
I thought 5 years
he was
wasn't
the
enough.
bad guy. Yeah, no, or that he
I don't
wasn't
know.
the bad guy.
Just feels maybe. I mean, prison's a big deal, but 5 years doesn't sound too crazy.
He's getting deported too, although Japan's an awesome country, but he's getting sent back to Japan, I guess, after the sentence. So, I mean, I read everything there was to read about this, and he even was putting some things out there in this that I thought was a low blow, like getting really specific, like grocery shopping. Okay, I told you how that's ridiculous. Checking mailbox, that takes 8 seconds per day. Fixing his bicycle. Okay, you can hire someone for that. Accompany him when he went to, I guess, his hometown to visit his family. That's cool. A lot of people would take that perk. Take his dog to the vet and to the groomer. Can hire someone to help you with that, or you can do it as a nice friend. It's not like something you're doing every single day. Helping him out with food. Okay, dropping him off at dinners and stuff. You can get a car service that you can be with him for. Like, all of these things just sounded ridiculous. And the last one that I hated the most was helped coordinate Japanese and U.S. lawyers for his marriage prenup and attended the meetings. Did we need you to say that out loud?
Stop.
That's messed up.
Grasping.
So anyway, I read a lot here. I wanted to make sure we took some time on this, but it's kind of gross. The letter reply was the worst part for me.
Yeah,
because I get it. They have to state their case back and say, hey, I pled guilty, but this is why I don't deserve as many months as what the prosecutors are throwing out there. But I'm like, there were some things in that letter that were not necessary to point out, and I don't think shed better light on you. There were some things where it's like, I apologize. This is the ultimate shame. There's things in there that you always should say in this case, but some of the other private details were unnecessary and made you sound bougie and greedy.
No, not relatable.
Not relatable.
Not relatable at all. And the last thing I have to say is, if you really do think Shohei had something to do with all of this gambling and it's a cover-up, just go read this stuff. Go read this stuff. This is not a Major League Baseball report. Major League Baseball is not covering anything up for Shohei. This is all federal government. Nothing to do with Major League Baseball. That's the last thing I have to say about it.
Right. This was a federal investigation that sounded like it was pretty easy because there was evidence all over the place to be able to handle this. And my last point is that when you talk to most people around the Dodgers, players, front office people, people that work around the team, they say Ohtani, for the short period of time that they had Ohtani with Ippei, he is a different person without him because Ippei was controlling his life and not allowing any access to Ohtani himself without it going through him because he was probably covering all this crap up. So it caused a really tough situation, and I feel for a player that has to deal with that stuff when he's in another country and it's not his primary language and someone is just absolutely scamming his life. All right, coming up next, we've got former GM Neal Huntington, who used to run the Pittsburgh Pirates, giving us a little insight on what's going down in Pittsburgh and some other thoughts around the game. All right, we're back. Felt like that needed some time. We
Sure.
can cover one little front office ownership kind of quote during the break here, since we're going to get into some of this stuff with our next guest. But David Rubenstein, who's the owner of the Orioles, he's in the media a lot. I think he even has a show. So he was talking about the O's the other day, and this was the quote that he told Yahoo Finance. He said, "What we have in baseball is a luxury tax in effect. If you go over with a higher payroll, you have to pay a penalty that goes to other teams. It's not a perfect system. It's better than nothing. At some point, I suspect we'll have something close to what the NFL and NBA have. No guarantee of that." Later quote, "Big city teams have some advantage. Later quote, "We have a payroll that is consistent to our needs. I don't think anyone is not playing with the Orioles because of money reasons." The last one was the toughest one for me.
What? The whole thing is just they're not. We're not going to get close. We're not going to get close to what the NFL has.
Correct.
He is a new owner. He has not sat in these meetings, as far as I know, unless he was like somebody on some executive board that he was like a guest, to these meetings. But he has not sat on these meetings. Doug, you're not. This isn't the '90s. We're not getting the salary cap. It's not happening. You've gotten the soft cap. You don't want a soft floor, clearly. But the last sentence, I don't think anyone is not playing with the Orioles because of money reasons. First of all, it's a double negative. I don't think anyone is not playing. So
Correct.
You can't trust anybody that smiles when they say sorry and uses double negatives. What? There's a lot of people that would like to play with the Orioles right now.
Correct.
There are free agents that would love to play for this team and hit dingers in the new porch that
Bring
got
it
moved
in.
back in.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
100%, dude.
He did not.
I don't
It's
know.
a bad feel statement.
Bad. I agree, 100%.
Bad feel.
They have a good squad. Why wouldn't anybody want to play for them? I don't. When
A
it comes,
future too.
yeah,
Yeah, but you got to offer more than someone else.
It's
This has been the problem.
money.
Top five.
It is money reasons.
It
The
is
money.
money
It's
reasons.
always money reasons.
They got smashed last trade deadline, and what happened?
You saw
They
they
faded.
fizzled. Yeah,
Fizzle for shizzle.
Fizzle faded.
Yeah. They've added a lot of payroll, but I'll still stay on the record here where I give them credit for that. But spending money has to be done wisely, and I don't like the moves that they've made.
No, don't like it.
Good team should be better.
Would you have traded Jurickson Profar years ago? Yes. That's what they have. They have a bunch of prospects.
True. Hey, we're excited to have Neal Huntington on the show, former general manager of the Pirates, current special assistant to the president of baseball ops and GM for the Cleveland Guardians. Neal, great to have you on. Thank you for the time. How you doing? And I like the little logo there.
Doing great. Thanks so much, Scott, Todd, and Erik for having me on the show. Erik, it's been a long time, man.
It has been a long time, and for everybody who doesn't know, Neal fired me twice.
What?
So, but I have to bring the negative up. I supped. And the positive part was he actually gave me my first chance in the big leagues. And without that, hey, never know if I would have ever made the big leagues and gotten to know Todd Frazier.
Hey, now.
That's good. I like that. All right, Neal. So I want to start first with, your current role with the Guardians. And if you can, give us a little insight on what they've been up to lately. Of course, just signed Paul Sewald, and they're coming off in ALCS where they were making a lot of Yankee fans pretty damn nervous.
Yeah, it's a fascinating club in that our starting pitching was probably the biggest challenge, and that's not typically something that gets you to the postseason. But our manager, our staff, our players played so hard every out of every game, and our bullpen gave us a chance to get back into games, and our starting pitching was just good enough. Our offense found a way to score runs. This off season has been about trying to move some things around to create some financial flexibility down the road, while also trying to add to the good core that's here with the young group that's coming behind it. And it's always a challenge to add, move laterally, and in some cases subtract while still trying to move forward.
I want to ask you a question right now. With all the signings going on the East Coast and West Coast, Midwest and right in the center of America here. Are you guys happy about that? You said because all these big names are going right and left of you guys, and it doesn't seem like they're coming in the middle. I got to feel like you're some sort of happy, I would assume.
Well, the reality is that the big money is always going to be what plays in the big markets. And so that's where your primary free agents, your premium free agents, they tend to end up in the bigger markets. And that's where the smaller markets tend to play in that middle tier and that next tier. And again, walking that fine line between this year and next year and 2 years, 3 years from now, adding Carlos Santana, adding Paul Sewald are a couple of veterans with a ton of experience. They're going to help our young players continue to grow. And these are the challenges that the small markets do face.
Can you tell me a little bit about the hiring process, not only for coaches, but getting players in? Because I've played for the Pirates, where you were the GM. I've played for the Guardians. They were the Indians at the time. Incredible, incredible people. How much is that important in these small markets?
Crucial, Eric. The most major league teams are playing from a similar playbook. Every major league team has the same resource foundation due to the national television contracts and the national revenue. Where it becomes very different is as you start to get into local revenues, and that's where one club may have 4, 5, 6, 8 times the local revenues that a small market does. So when you're playing from the same playbook, you have the same expense foundation in player development and scouting and analytics and just running a baseball organization. Everybody has that same, but for the small markets, that percentage of total of money available is much larger than it is for the large markets. And that's essentially where your differences in payrolls come from, is local revenues. So as you look at how do we find an advantage in these small markets, we believe it's our processes and our people. And the process has become exhaustive. The recruiting that goes on in free agency, the planning that goes through identifying how we think we can help a free agent is exhaustive. The recruiting of staff, the continual sourcing of potential staff members for somewhere down the road, it's never ending. And then once you get into that hiring process, it is absolutely crucial that we get it right. And Cleveland's more exhaustive in terms of the vetting process and the interview process of anybody I've ever seen. And I think the proof is in the pudding with the quality that Chris Antonetti and Mike Chernoff bring to this organization. Steve Vogt hit the ground running despite being a rookie manager and following a Hall of Famer. Had a great staff around him, and they just, they were unbelievable this year, and it was so much fun to watch them work, and look forward to this year and future years.
How do you sit there and feel about your tenure as a Pirates GM? Because you took an organization that was it 17 losing seasons, and then rattled off what was built with a minor league organization that your crew built. You, Kyle Stark, I'm forgetting people now. Jim Benedict that were in the minor leagues, and you created that small dynasty for a city that is craving it. How do you feel about your tenure there, and looking back on now what they've done since?
So the challenge to that is obviously it's not good enough, because I'm now sitting here with the Guardians logo on my chest and was asked to not come back to Pittsburgh. But that said, I am proud of a lot of what we did. We took over a situation that a friend of mine, after I took the job, told me I would have been better taking an expansion club. And I asked him why he didn't tell me that before I took the job. But we brought in people that were committed to something bigger than themselves. We brought in people that wanted to do something the right way. And we had the 3-year rebuild, and people forget that in year 4, we were competitive deep into August and then had an abysmal September. We did the same thing in year 5. And then year 6 is 2013. And one of the most special moments I think I'll ever experience professionally was the wild card game in Pittsburgh, and had a 3-year run where I think we had the 2nd or 3rd best record in baseball. The problem is the Cardinals were one of the teams that were ahead of us, and we just couldn't find our way around them. Rolled things out there in 16, 17. It didn't work. So we shifted gears, tried to shift things up, and traded some players nearing the end of their time under contract in Pittsburgh, and it didn't work. And We tried to retool without rebuilding, and it didn't work, and that's why I'm sitting here today. But incredibly proud of the people. Kyle Stark was phenomenal. Kevin Graves as an assistant GM is tremendous, and I hope gets an opportunity as a GM someday. Greg Smith and Joe Delicari brought in a ton of good players in our scouting system, our player development staff, our major league coaches. Clint Hurdle was so great to work with. And worked so hard to get the most out of the people that were around him. Again, I wished we had found a way to win more games, certainly in October, but over the course of the years, and it didn't end well. But I am incredibly proud of a lot of the things that we did there.
I mean, you glossed over the fact that you guys built a brand new facility down in the Dominican for Dominican players to continue to grow that pipeline. But there was a story out there about how you had asked for some money from Bob Nutting, and he said no, and all this stuff. During that time, to make that jump, you said about passing the Cardinals. Was there ever a dollar figure in your mind or a player that cost a certain dollar figure that would have been like, man, you know what? If we had this person to pair with Garrett Cole, to pair with a young Jameson Taillon, and we could have gone and gotten him, probably would have costed more than the largest free agent contract at $19 million that any Pirate has ever gotten. Do you know what that dollar amount would be? Because I know Pirate fans would love to know how close they are or were or could be to winning a championship in that city.
So the reality, it's a great question. The reality is we never allowed ourselves those thoughts, those conversations at the time. We worked within the parameters that our market allowed, that our ownership allowed, and we worked to do the absolute best that we could. We tried to take some chances. It didn't always work. Sometimes it worked out great. We tried to maximize the dollars that we were applying through good scouting, good coaching, good development. And again, in a lot of cases it worked. In some cases it didn't. To sit in that bottom 10 in payroll every single year, as I look back on it, it is tough. Bottom 5 for the majority of our time there. At the same time, I look at what Chris and Mike are accomplishing here in Cleveland, and they've accomplished, and Erik, and before him, Andrew down at Tampa. And it is possible. It's just the margin for error is so much smaller. The hard reality, and no fan wants to hear this, the hard reality is market size is real. As we talked about earlier, the difference in revenues, meaning the difference in payroll, it's real. It's not a facade. There are some organizations that in a given year or a given sequence of years, when they think they have a window, they'll deficit spend. But most of these owners are owners because they were good business people, and good business people tend not to like to lose money on a consistent basis. And so the owners spend what the market allows, what the revenues allow. Ideally, a front office has the freedom to move some money around as they see fit. And that's we were able to do that in Pittsburgh. Chris and Mike and are able to do that here. And it looks like Erik is able to do that down at Tampa Bay. And that's crucial to be able to push some more in some years and maybe reallocate it in others. But everybody wants spending to be the answer. But this is a business. No one likes to hear that. No fans want to hear that, but it is a business. And typically 28 owners, 27 owners operate as if it's a business. Sometimes you have 1 or 2 or 3 that'll go out and deficit spend in a certain period of time. And that is the harsh reality.
Yeah, you can deficit spend because the franchise value skyrockets. We also don't have access to books. So especially the case in Pittsburgh gets really tough, Neal, because most people look at it and say, how am I supposed to feel bad for the ownership group that can't spend $20 million in free agency? I don't believe that. I know fans don't believe that. And if that's truly the case, most people say then someone else should be owning the team, because there definitely are people that would take over a team like that. Do you commiserate with fans in a case like that? Do you feel like Pittsburgh can't even spend $20 million on a long-term contract on a player in free agency at this point in the game with the revenues that even the Pirates have?
So, of course, Scott, I understand the frustration where teams are choosing not to spend. The equity in the club is a bit of a false argument. It's the same as home equity. You only get it if you loan. if you take out a loan or if you sell the club. So most owners don't intend to sell. Some that do are the ones that tend to deficit spend because they want to take a run at it before they sell the club. And you're right. It's tough to feel sorry for billionaires that are saying they can't spend. I definitely understand that. And again, ideally, there would be every owner that would be willing to deficit spend for a sequence of years when they feel like their window is open. Unfortunately, that isn't the case in the industry. The other sports typically don't deficit spend because they don't need to, because player X costs a percentage of their payroll, and that's the difference between a player choosing to play in Boston, Chicago, or Pittsburgh or Cleveland. But in Major League Baseball, when a player costs 10% of Cleveland's payroll, that's a $10 million player. When he costs 10% of a large market team's payroll, that's $25 to $30 to $35 million player. And that does make it very, very different. I definitely understand why fans get frustrated because they see billionaires that don't spend. They're business people, and business people run businesses, and they don't run businesses to lose money on a consistent basis. Ideally, some are willing to do it on a short-term basis. My expectation and my assumption, watching from a distance here years ago, is that the Dolans here in Cleveland have been willing to do that. As I've looked at their payroll numbers compared to other small markets, and my first go-around with Cleveland, I know they deficit spent at times, but that's not a way to run a business on a consistent basis.
That's awesome to hear about Cleveland, and your insight is awesome because you were in those meetings. Is there a situation where if we hear salary cap, we have a soft salary cap with the threshold, the luxury tax threshold. Because you've seen these numbers, if there's a floor put in, do you feel like some of these teams will have to sell their team because of the fact that now they're needing to spend an extra $70 million because of where the floor is put, because of where the ceiling is, just like other leagues?
So the way the other leagues make it work, Erik, is just a lot more revenue sharing. The reason Green Bay can compete with New England and the Los Angeles teams is there's a lot more revenue sharing. So that is a big obstacle. I think from the ownership side is more revenue sharing, but without revenue sharing, I think it would be extremely difficult to find to make it work on a team side without significant revenue sharing. If there is a salary floor, which if there's going to be a salary cap, I certainly understand why there would be the expectation of a salary floor, but there would need to be significant shift in revenue sharing, as is done in the other sports.
We've heard your name mentioned in so many jobs. Good thing you didn't take the Giants job, because Buster just came in and just was like, well, I'm done playing, so I'll go and do that now. So that's unfair. That's like me coming in and being like, Buster, I'm going to catch now. And Buster's like, oh, actually, I'm just going to keep catching. So he would have taken your job. Your name's been bantered around with other teams. What's next for you? What is your, I don't want to say goal, because I know your mindset is not necessarily, I need this job, because you see the fact that somebody has that job already and you're not looking to poach somebody's job. But what is your goal in the game as you currently sit here in 2025?
So I took the Pirates job not to become a GM. I took the Pirates job to help people achieve their personal and professional goals, and to create lifelong positive memories for our fans. I'm not quite in that same realm now, but I can give back to young staff and young executives and mentor. I'm out and about evaluating. I saw a ton of players for the draft. I see our minor league system. I share my thoughts with Chris and Mike and Matt Foreman, the tremendous assistant GM. If the right opportunity were to present itself to lead a baseball operations department again with the right group in charge and the right ownership group, I would love to take another run and learn from the lessons. If it doesn't, I'm in a really good spot with the Cleveland Guardians, and I love this group. And if something else pops up in between, I'm absolutely open to it. I just want to continue to try to help people.
What the Dodgers are doing right now is incredible. Signing all these guys, not worried about money, getting after it, doing what they have to do. What do you think about this? And have you ever seen anything like this in your career with all the big time guys that they're signing and the money that they are giving out?
No, you go back to the criticism that people used to levy on the Yankees, and the Dodgers are dwarfing that. They're running circles around what was done back in the day. It feels like anyway, and again, a credit to them. They figured out a way to make the finances work. I have no idea if their deficit spending or if their revenues are just this strong that they're able to do this. And you look at the other leagues, and there are teams in huge markets that make huge profits. There are teams in smaller markets that some years make profits, some years don't. And I'm never going to criticize an owner or a front office for doing what they are able to and allowed to do. And it seems tough for the game when teams are talking about signing a player to play a marquee role for them, and he goes to Los Angeles and he's going to be the fourth or fifth best at his role. But we're here to win championships. It's what we sign up for. We recognize it doesn't change our motivation at the end of the day. Our on-field goal is to win championships. And if it gets a little tougher, it gets a little tougher, and we're going to show up and compete every day.
Neal, I just want to do a side-by-side since you spent a lot of time in Pittsburgh, but now you've been gone for a while, and now you've spent a good chunk of time with Cleveland. Why do you think Cleveland has more success recently as an organization versus Pittsburgh, even since you left? I know you're not there, but they both live in central divisions where it's sure these teams have to kind of scrap and claw with payroll, but they're in a similar enough range to other teams. So this is partially for Pittsburgh fans. Like, why can't we be good after going through a whole teardown and starting back up? And Cleveland fans saying, what are we doing so well that we're able to put together a team like this?
So what makes Cleveland so special and Tampa so special is that they haven't had to go through a teardown and rebuild. If you look at Cleveland's records over the past 10, 15 years, the one-loss record is just incredible for the resources, and Tampa similarly. In Pittsburgh, we tore it down when we got there. We worked really hard not to have to tear it down. The biggest difference between Pittsburgh and Cleveland goes back to like 2013 to 2019, and Cleveland had Chris Antonetti and Pittsburgh had me. And I say that in all seriousness, that's how good this front office is they are a difference maker front office in their people and their processes and how they apply those things. The hard part is if you would ask people if after year 3 in Pittsburgh, if I was going to last to year 6, 90% of the fans would have said, God, I hope not. But for year 4, year 5, we started to show signs. Year 6, we made the postseason. This has been and his front office's 6th year. They've got great young pitching over there. How they find enough offense is going to be something that they need to do. I respect Derek Shelton a lot. I'm rooting for them. The fans of Pittsburgh are passionate. That passion turns to venom when they lose too much, whether it's the Pirates, the Penguins, or the Steelers. We all feel it. We all felt it back in the day. And again, that's the reality. So that margin for error we talked about earlier is really small. And if you swing and miss, sometimes you don't get that second swing, or sometimes that it just causes too much damage. And that's the hard part of these small markets, and that's where Chris and Mike here in Cleveland with Terry and now Voter, they've just found a way to maintain that competitive edge, to maintain the ability to retain really good players, but have enough depth that when they get injured, they're able to somehow survive. And when they have an off year, it's not 5 off years, and it's remarkable what they do here. The partnerships, the emphasis on growth and development, both in the front office with our coaches, and with our players is special, and it's like no place I've ever seen before.
I had a story. It would take too long about getting my first minor league contract with the Pirates. I don't think you were a part of it. It was more Kyle Stark, so I'll tell that story on the show another time. But I want you to go to 2010, and I know you made a ton of player moves. I was told in 2018 or 19 by one of the coaches that you had in your room there, there's a lot of coaches at the end of spring training. I was told that I was voted of the 6 or 8 people, majority vote had me making the team out of spring training, but I was not on the 40-man roster. Can you confirm or deny that you were one of the people with John Russell that said I should not make the team out of spring training?
Well, since you didn't make the team, obviously I was a part of that, Erik, so you can hate me for that. I remember bringing you into camp, and I don't know if you remember this, and I'm sorry to take time that we don't have, but when we sat down for our entrance meeting at the beginning of spring training, we had signed you, I think it was January, late January. You were coming out of Toronto. You'd had a good year in AA. You were older. And we had signed you, in all candor, to be an organizational catcher, to go to AAA, to lead a staff, to catch, throw, to game call, and help our young players mature. And when we talked about that in spring training, I remember you at the end of the meeting looking me dead in the eye and saying, I'm just not sure why you wouldn't want a guy who can do all those things and hit 20 bombs. So keep me in mind. And that's how you ended our meeting at the end of spring training when you joined us.
Love that.
I love that. It is all true story, except for the fact that Kyle Stark had actually said in the meeting, you are going to go to AA, but Joe Kerrigan spoke up for me, and I ended up being the AAA backup behind Robinson Diaz, because you had Miguel Perez, who now Miggy's the AAA manager of the Indianapolis Indians. But at the end, at part of that meeting, Kyle Stark said, if before we release you halfway through the year, we would love to see if you could pitch. So I got hired, and you were already thinking about how to fire me or hire me on as a coach. So it was one of those mixed
two
meetings.
Two additions to that, Erik. One, we actually talked about and called you Coach Kratz as we signed you because we thought you were going to be an outstanding manager someday. So we were signing you in part to come learn our culture, come add to our culture, but then hopefully be a part of leading our culture when your time was done. You went to AAA and were too good. You played your way to the major leagues. Unfortunately, we didn't see that same result in the major leagues. And we moved on from you mistakenly because you went out and had a heck of a major league career, Erik, and my hat's off to you. But so not only did we think we might ask you to pitch, we called you Coach Kratz because we hoped you were going to lead our system and be a really good manager, maybe at the major league level, but certainly in the minor leagues for us, if you hadn't gone out and played so well.
It's all part of the journey. It's all part of the journey. Getting fired, getting hired, and pushing your way through.
And he's still Coach Kratz now with Foul Territory.
And you're right. He is a good manager for his son's high school team, too.
That's right. Well, Neal, thank you so much for joining us and providing all the insight. Really helpful for us. We love talking to front office people. So appreciate the time, and we'll see you in spring training out in Arizona.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, guys. I enjoyed it.
Appreciate you. Yeah, here too. Neal Huntington, currently in the front office for Cleveland, formerly with Pittsburgh. All right, good insight there. Tried to bring it too on questioning, because the part that is fascinating to me is why can Cleveland thrive, but Pittsburgh can't? You know, if Pittsburgh doesn't land their number one pick in a Paul Skeens year, where would they be right now?
I'll go because so I'm in 9 and 10. I was in the organization. 16, I went for a little bit.
Yep.
With just the big leagues. But I saw everybody in the minor leagues. With Cleveland. They hit it, 99% of the time with their staff, their coaches, their other little things. They hit that perfectly. At 99%, it's not perfect, but it's as perfect as you can get when you're hiring people. If anybody's ever hired anybody, it's tough to do. You sit there and you go, they have the unbelievable group of people put together, pushing in the right direction, unselfish. Pittsburgh wasn't 100% on that. And I think if we had asked, if Neal was still on, I think he would agree with me. They didn't hit it 100% of the time. And I think some of those people that were in the minor league system were there for themselves. They were using it as a stepping stone. And the Guardians now do it incredible. It's a really unselfish group of people that selfishly wants something for other people. Like it's really amazing, and the Guardians do an awesome job of it. Yeah, they create good players and good people.
Mm-hmm. You played a little Pittsburgh time at the finish line.
19 games.
Yeah.
What an experience.
Not a happy experience.
You were spoiled. You played on some teams that really took care of the boys.
Listen, I wasn't hitting well. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
I was batting, I think, under 100, if you want the truth, in 30 at bats, right? And then I went 2 for 4. We had an off day, and then they released me. And the guy they brought in was batting under me. He was batting lower than what I was batting.
I've done it. I did it.
I was like, what is going on here?
I did.
I mean, at least give me somebody batting 130 or something.
Hey, if you had performance bonuses in your contract, you would have been gone
45 days.
I had that contract that said
45 days. Something we never talk about.
It was like 6. No, I think it was like 60 or whatever it is. I forget what it's called. They gave me a contract where they said it was only for certain amount of days, and then we can decide what we want to do with you. And 9.9 out of 10 times when those days come up, see you later. They get rid of you.
Unless you're hitting
but
280.
They didn't even give me the all those. It was 19.
But they had to pay you for the rest of the 45.
Yeah. So but they brought in somebody batting .70 and I was .86. Yeah.
All right, here we go. We're going to bring C. Trent Rosecrans on in a minute from The Athletic to go over the Cincinnati Reds 2025 storylines. And also, we will maybe get a little insight on one more move. Could we get one more move out of Cincinnati?
Estebes.
One little reliever move?
Come on now, somebody.
Maybe make it 2.
Hey.
Yeah, let's do it. What's up, C. Trent?
He's always in his
one
car,
more reliever
man.
move out
Always
of the Reds?
in his car.
One more? We getting a little Carlos Estevez action?
Sorry about that, guys.
You're good.
Where you moving to now?
No, I'm going to pick up someone from the airport.
I love it. You got your dog
So
in the
I'm being a
background,
mensch.
too. Bless you.
Yeah, that's Bodie. He's TV star. Oh, damn it, it flipped.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
All right, let's hit those.
There we go. All right.
Baby. C. Trent's going to help us run through storylines for the Reds. Ellie's Rise innings eaters. Do we have a nice, healthy rotation now? Terry Francona entering the mix, and maybe a little more firepower for the starting 9. C. Trent, let's start with my dude. Can Ellie De La Cruz take the next step since he led the league in stolen bases, but also in strikeouts? Because he was a star last year. Can he take another step to become a superstar, top, 10 player in the sport?
Yeah. I mean, that's a simple answer. Like, there's certain guys that you just don't question anything. I used to say about Joey Votto that, you could tell me anything about Joey and I'd believe it. That was as much about off the field as anything. With Ellie, there's nothing on the field that you could tell me that he is capable of doing that I wouldn't believe.
Yeah, I believe it. Something they struggled with. Innings. They're eating it. They need to eat innings. And some of it has to do with how the pitchers are brought up. Some of it has to do with the fact that there was injuries. They bring in Brady Singer. Are we going to get somebody else that's going to gobble innings up?
I think the hope is Nick Martinez, who's a guy who was kind of back and forth between the rotation and the bullpen last year. But when at the end of the year, when it was said, hey, we're giving you a shot because they didn't have really any other chances, he became a $21 million player. Nick Martinez was just phenomenal last year. I think really when you look at it, he is one guy that if you look at what he did last year, and especially if you take out the first couple starts when he was like, hey, we're going to keep you here until people get ready. And I think it was like Nick Lodolo to get healthy and some of those other guys. If you take those starts away and just do everything from May on, he was phenomenal. And I think he can follow that up and do it for a full season. It's a guy who knows what a major league season is like. He's been through them, not necessarily as a full-time starter, but is certainly a big part of it. And so, yeah, you guys are right. Like that's the thing this team has been looking for shoot, Todd, since 2012, you guys I think used 5 pitchers for 161 games. You had to use a second one for a doubleheader rain makeup game, and that was the only one out of the top 5 that didn't make every start. I
Yep.
don't see that happening, but it's been since then that you're just looking for innings, and come September, it can be pushing guys too soon. Now, luckily last year, I think one of the big things was they had a guy ready who was probably a little ahead of anybody's expected schedule, and Rhett Lauder. And Rhett Lauder came in and was great. And right now, he doesn't look like he's the guy who might not break camp with them, but that's good. If a guy who made like 5 starts last year and had like a 1-something ERA, if that's one of your reserves, you're feeling pretty good.
Very much so. Very much so. Now on to Tito Francona. How do you see this playing out, man? This guy has been doing it before. He's brought up some young teams. Is he the guy that's going to help this team get over a hump and get an NL Central, title in the mix right away, or is it going to take time for him?
Again, I mean, I hate to do this and sound like I'm like kissing Todd's butt, but it reminds me a lot like Dusty, right? You know, I've never done that to you. But it reminds me of Dusty, like a guy that comes in and
Yeah.
is the thing you would talk about with Dusty is he's a chameleon. I always would say like I could spend a day with Dusty, have the greatest conversations of my life, and never talk about baseball. Now with Tito, I don't know how much it's non-baseball, but I would have the greatest baseball conversations. But he can connect with everybody, and you've seen that, from young guys, really helping out young guys of both Latin guys and American guys. His track record is just inscrutable, and I think that is a hope. And I think the right manager's a weird position. I always note that like they're called managers, not coaches, because they have to manage, and that's a whole different set of skills than coaching. And with Dusty, with Tito, these are 2 of the greatest to ever do it. And you had a young team with some young talent on the rise back around 2010 with the Reds. And I think Tito is kind of very similar at this point.
How about some more firepower? You talk about a young team on the rise, a lineup. We don't have Todd Frazier. We don't have Joey Votto. We don't even have a aging Brandon Phillips. Like, we have Matt McClain this year, Edwin Encarnacion Strand, like TJ Friedel, Ellie De La Cruz. Is there more firepower in this lineup this year than last year just with those guys being healthy?
With Matt McClain, I mean, McClain is one of those guys. You guys have all played with guys that you're just like, not the flashiest, but just gets things done. And Matt McClain is a ball player, right? And you can never have too many ball players. And they missed him last year. The combination of Ellie and McClain it's fascinating to me. I saw it first when I saw them in the minors, and the kind of the odd couple. One is 5'9", 10. The other is 6'5", 6, 7, whatever he is. Southern California kid, a ginger, and then you have a kid from the Dominican with dreadlocks. It's great. But the thing is, and you guys will understand when I say this, I watched them through the minors, and they were both shortstops. Shortstops are always shortstops in their mind. Todd probably still thinks he could play shortstop right now, because they're like that. And it takes hey, this is my team when you're a shortstop. I think shortstops have that, catchers have that, and center fielders have that. And there was no jealousy between the two. Matt McClain didn't care that Ellie got all the headlines because he's like, oh yeah, it makes sense. He's just a ball player. Ellie didn't care that people said, oh, this McClain guy's pretty good too. He's playing short today and you're playing third. They didn't care. And I talked to also like some veterans who were their teammates, and they said that was the beauty of it. when they were like in AAA. You talk about some longtime big leaguers, and they saw it. They know these things, and that's huge, and that's tough to. Missing McLean last year was huge. That's the difference between a disappointment and a playoff team last year for me.
Yeah, a lot of people felt that way. I switched my prediction before the season started once McLean went down. C. Trent, thank you for joining us. Safe travels back on the road. Thanks for pulling over for us. Appreciate you, man. We'll catch you soon, okay?
My bad. Sorry, guys.
No, you're good. You're good.
Next
hey,
one's
perfect
free.
quality. There you go. Thank you. Boom. We'll take it. Follow him at C. Trent. Very easy to follow on Twitter. Todd Father, you played for the Reds. They like you there. What do you got? What do you got on this?
They're dying for a winner, man. You think about the surrounding states, Indiana, West Virginia, to name a few. Kentucky. They all want the Reds to dominate. They're all Reds fans. They're right now. They're on the caravan. I got talking to Jose Trevino. He's like, dude, this is incredible. All the places he's never heard of on a Reds caravan. I did it 5 years straight. Mm-hmm. You're going to different,
Podunk,
Ohio's, Kentucky's, West Virginia's, Indiana's. And you're like, 100 people live in this 10-mile radius town, and they're like, come on, man, we want you there.
Yep.
We got this. And we got you. We're like this and that. We make the playoffs, nothing happens. It's just one of those places where they'll be upset, but at the same time, they still love you. And they're like, it's not that what have you done for me lately attitude, but it's like, we're still rooting for you. Come on. The Reds life, Red land, and I love those people, and that's why I love playing there, because they took the downs and the ups, but they were even keeled and they understood. But it's time now. Win and find a way to get in the playoffs, and anything can happen in the playoffs. I think they do. I think they do. Health is the biggest concern. They had a lot of guys that were injured last year. If they could stay somewhat healthy, I think they do have an opportunity to do some damage in that division.
Okay. I like them.
Yeah. Don't do that.
What?
You're either in on somebody or not. And
they're not
you're
winning the World Series in 2025.
Don't say that.
But can they make the playoffs? Absolutely.
They have a super high ceiling for their pitching staff. Lodolo is nasty. Brett Lauder showed some stuff. Brady
you know how tall Lodolo is? He's
a monster.
He's a monster.
And what he can do from the left side, dudes that I've talked to that faced him on the Phillies, he dominated the Phillies. Like,
remember Nick Martinez talked about him?
2 or 3 straight, 10-plus strikeout games against him. He's nasty. You have that potential. Hunter Green took a huge stride last year, staying healthy. There's some dudes that are Charmin out there.
Abbott. Oh, my God.
Got to get after it. Andrew Abbott was looking Rookie of the Year style. So you sit there and you go, they have the makings of it.
On paper, for sure.
I think their lineup is almost a World Series lineup.
Sneaky.
Maybe I'm
sneaky good.
Maybe I'm off on that, but you have an MVP candidate in Ellie. You have another one in McLean. And TJ Friedel just drives in all the runs.
Chase Burns, baby. Look out for Chase Burns, baby. All right, for the people, trying to answer some quickie questions here before we go to break. Sicilian said, are the Jays a World Series contender if they sign Pete and Max?
Right. I would say yes, they're a World Series contender.
Wow.
I would say all the teams.
No.
60, 70% of teams are World Series contenders after what they did in free agency. How can you sit there and say they're not World Series contenders with some of the guys they picked up?
No, I don't think it's enough.
Well, that's your opinion.
No, it's right.
Playoff contender for sure.
Yes, there you go.
There it is.
Who says they can't be a World Series?
Look at the teams that have won the World Series in the last 3 years. Compare them to the not current roster, the roster with Max Scherzer and Pete Alonso.
Okay. Don't say that.
Are they better than Is their lineup better than the Texas Rangers lineup? Do they have a
Yes.
Do they have a Nathan Eovaldi that steps up and absolutely shuts the door in the World Series? Does Max Scherzer comes back and just absolutely just deals and is a lights out pitcher? I don't think it's enough. I don't.
I'd put a few nickels on him before the season started to make it to the World Series.
I wouldn't.
That's
You're wrong.
It's great.
NL is much stronger than the AL still.
The Dodgers are winning it for the next 20 years, so it doesn't matter.
That's right. Yeah. Why are we even doing this show? Why are you watching? The Dodgers,
Why are they even
The Dodgers
playing?
have won every year for 10 years, right?
They could
We're a
have 10.
Dodgers
They
show,
could have
right?
10 injuries and still have a really good.
I hope
Yeah.
this year, because of the Dodgers, instead of everybody coming in best shape of my life, people start coming and be like, fattest I've ever been. Why?
Doesn't matter.
Because the Dodgers are too good. It doesn't matter. I'm just looking to play out my contract
That's
because
it.
I'm not on the Dodgers and they're going to win. No, that doesn't happen. Dudes are in the thick of it right now. They are in the thick of it. Full go, BP, ground balls at home in the cold, long toss, bullpens to win. That's what they want to do.
Oh, you did that right now?
Ooh-wee, BetMGM futures. Look what they throw the Nats at. 70.5.
Why do I absolutely love the
this.
over?
I know.
Why?
And not
What
by
did I-
much, but I could see them being a close to 500 team.
I mean, 75, I don't think is close to 500. 75 wins is still 5 over this. What am I missing?
The Braves, the Mets, the Phillies,
Because they're in the division.
Others in the NL
saying-
even that are better that they'll face.
the NL
Diamondbacks
West
should be better.
The NL West will dominate them. I mean,
Giants should be a little better. Dodgers should be a little better.
They lost their closer.
Cubs should be a little better.
They lost Patrick Corbin. They don't have an innings eater.
I think
Patrick
it's going to
Corbin
be really close.
Didn't have a good year, but he was.
Nats bullpen might be pretty ugly. Nats starting staff might have performed above expectations a little bit last year.
When's Josiah Gray coming back?
I don't know, but sometime this
June-ish?
year.
June-ish?
Yeah. I like the team. It's just that it was built to do a little bit of damage in the offseason, and they did a little bit of damage, but they should have done more. So I like the team. Are they a wild card team? No. Could
No.
they finish 500? Maybe. It wouldn't be crazy. I think I'm an over on this one.
I would say over right now, too.
Yeah.
I like to not look at these ahead of time. I know I looked at the Marlins before, but
Yep.
that one surprised me. I feel like this is an over, too. I didn't even throw a little on it.
Yeah, this is when I
Don't do
throw
that.
on. I don't feel like, oh, man, it's going to be 71. I'm like, no, it's going to be 75. And if you're thinking that, these are the ones to attack. Yeah, a lot of good young talent, which also usually means they'll be healthier. And if they're anywhere close to wild card contention, they would add a player or two at the deadline. No?
They should.
I wanted a big boy in the offseason. We didn't get it yet. Hey, a little basketball betting this weekend because we don't have baseball yet. Each Friday throughout the season, pick a player you think is going to score first in a game. If it's not your player, but he scores the second field goal, you get your stake back in cash. Just log into the BetMGM app or go to BetMGM.com. Gambling problem or concern, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Coming back to slap hands. All right, let's slap. We got Todd Father's Pong tournament coming up this weekend. Todd Father, obviously it all goes to a great cause. We were there last year. We're sending some FT fam there this year to
Yes.
hopefully continue the legacy of not winning.
Hey, it was your first year last year.
I know.
It's great. As you can see, it goes to a good cause with the Children's Specialized Hospital for kids with special needs, and it's going to be another good one. We have almost sold out again. We're waiting on 4 other teams, which is really good.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of prizes, free pizza. The pizza's the size of Erik Kratz. So 1 or 2 slices will do.
Really, you could just cut it in half then.
Yeah,
It'd probably be
exactly.
good if it's Kratz size.
And it's just going to be a fun time. Less than 24 hours away. A lot of great sponsors and community effort all around. So it's going to 3rd annual. Pretty excited again.
Who doesn't want some pie?
Yeah,
Pong.
exactly. A little pong, and then there's a cash bar. You can have fun, hang out there as long as you want. So,
Can we show this Cubs strength and conditioning coordinator
oh
posting
yes,
a new dynamic workout? What does it look like? No, guess not.
Funny guy.
not yet, not yet.
He's a funny guy.
Kratz hats?
That one's electric.
I like that one.
Hard to see it.
What league is that in?
That's the Copa Diversión. It's the minor league. Tribute to Latin culture in each city that they're in. It's legit. The uniforms matched it too.
Can you show it again?
They're electric.
The colors are immaculate.
And when we go to the BBWAs, I'm not going to be wearing a hat. So everybody who wants to tune in to see what this bald head really looks like.
Need
Oh, wait, you can see it now.
Hey, you need a little shape up like I got this morning. So
No, yours looks terrible. Mine looks tremendous.
awkward. Whatever. Nice hat though. I'll give you credit. That's an A hat.
Thank you. Appreciate that. How about that?
Scarlett said, wonder if there were any other bidders for Profar? I would imagine there were.
Great question.
The one part we didn't get to time-wise in the top of the show with Profar is it's a big loss for the Padres. He was really good last year for San Diego. Remember, we were like, who's going to be in their outfield? And then Profar shines. Jackson Merrill shines.
Like Jackson Merrill.
Yeah, I like Jackson Merrill too. But
He'll get better this year. Whew, he was so clutch last year.
there's a hold up there in San Diego, though. That's the thing. There's a hold up.
It's going to be missed.
Well,
That's a lot of production.
Legal hold up.
Still going on.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, imagine tying AJ Preller down and saying, "Hey, dude, I know you like to do everything, but you can't do anything." Oof. Hey, tomorrow night, Saturday night, FT with big guests.
One
in
more
New York
sleep.
City. One more sleep.
Barry Lamar Bonds.
Yes.
Aaron Judge.
AJ's favorite player is Barry Bonds.
Paul Skeens. All them dudes.
Libby? All right, we're back, FT fam. Didn't have time for this. Got very busy during the show, but there were some new details about the robo-umps coming to spring training. So over 60% of spring games are going to feature the automated strike zone. This came out about an hour before the show started. Evan Drellick with the report in The Athletic. The Diamondbacks get the most ABS usage. They'll get 29 games, most in the league. Boo-hoo, Cubs fans only get 7 chances to watch the ABS system in the spring training action. Now, change-wise, this was put out there by the league. They wanted everyone to know that you're going to notice a difference in the zone during particular counts. And some players or coaches or fans might be like, well, the zone's the same at all times. Well, no, it's not. If we're going off of research, umpires are supposed to have the same zone at all times, but that doesn't actually happen. According to data that the league included in their presentation, at the big league level, the human zone on a 3-0 count typically measures 550 square inches. On an 0-2 count, the zone is 412 square inches.
Well, it's going
the zone
on.
is supposed to be 443, and that's what it says for the ABS. You're confused?
No,
he's angry.
This is
He's
terrible.
Angry about the data?
Terrible.
You're just finding out that umpires call.
I had no clue about this. This is terrible.
Well, it's not a mandate.
I know
it's just what
umpires
they
do it, but here's Pretend my notebook strike zone. If it goes off of here, it's a ball. If it goes off here, anywhere. If the ball hits on this plate, if this is the plate, it's a strike.
Todd Father's next
I don't understand.
His instructor at an umpire camp.
I don't get it.
Let's bring in
If it's
Todd
this
Father.
far off the plate, it's a ball.
Todd,
What are they doing here?
I need your instant reaction to this.
Ridiculous.
Wait, but they're cleaning this
was-
up with the ABS because ABS doesn't have feelings, emotions, or
Is there going to
bias.
be an umpire behind the plate?
Yes.
And he calls it a ball or strike.
The
right?
machine tells him
And
what
then
to say. And then that's the result.
Wonder what Joe West was thinking about this.
Todd, how much did it make you mad when you were like, "That's a ball, that's
Yeah.
off," and he goes, "It was a good pitch, Todd."
Yeah.
How much? See, look at
It's a good pitch because catchers like you go, let me get the glove on. They catch it and go, catch, let me in. Like that. And they bring it in. I just saw Salvador Perez's
ask
catching
your
practice. He caught it and brings it up about a foot. It's a ball.
Ask your brother.
You ask him.
Your brother.
This
got
is
thrown out.
ridiculous.
What part's ridiculous though? This is good. We're going to fix
No, it's
problems.
good. They're fixing it.
Oh, I would hope they're fixing. If the plate is here, if Jose Altuve is
That's what
hitting,
ABS is.
if Jose Altuve is hitting, that's a strike zone. If Erik Kratz is hitting, this is the strike zone. That's how it should be. I don't. This little inches crap. This is baloney. I don't want to hear it. I'm sorry. Whether it's fixing it or not, the strike zone's different for each guy. Okay, get it. It's for this level. In and out, it's the same. Up and down is different. Okay, just make it bigger for bigger people and find out where that top zone is and bottom zone is. The analytical part is just, this drives me crazy, man. Stupid. Sorry.
But the human element of judging 3-0 versus 0-2 is gone. That's good.
That's great. Yeah, because the
3-0
umpires
strike-
they missed a lot of calls. Yeah, great.
A 3-0 strike is going to be the same as an 0-2 strike. A 3-0 ball is going to be the same as an 0-2 ball.
So you won't see, umpires are just waiting to get buzzed.
Yes.
Don't like it.
You don't like
I
it?
like the human element, and I like a player being like, "Hey,
Wait,
man,
what
am
You're
I
just fighting against yourself.
am
What
I
are you
lost
talking
here?"
about? You're
Yeah,
lost.
I don't think you're reading this right.
I don't think so either. Then
You like the human element, but this is telling you that the human element is.
yeah, but I don't want a buzzer. I want the umpire to go strike and be like, "Nah, I got that off. Let me look."
Oh, so you want the challenge system?
I want the
Right,
challenge
right, right.
system.
No, I do too.
I don't
Okay.
want. I want the umpire. I want human. I want human nature.
I wasn't
Yeah.
sure where you were going. Now I got you.
I want the umpire to say, and ball, and Eric's like, let me check. Can you check that one for me? I got that one on the knees. Boom, strike. I like that. I like the human element part, man. It takes away from the game.
So they're
Yeah.
testing the automated zone so players can get used to that. But ultimately, what I predict will happen is in 2026, we will get the automated zone based on a challenge system. So this is to get players comfortable with the fact that the zone's going to be a little different for you in certain instances. So let's make sure that we get all of the flaws out of the system if there are any concerns and complaints in spring training. And then once we get this data and this feedback in this current spring training in 2026, you will see the challenge system. Sir, I believe that was a ball, not a strike.
That's
Can you
what I
give me a
want.
little bit of this.
Yep.
And they go, Mikey, are you sure? Aaron Judge is up next, and we only have one challenge left. So if you are wrong, we're releasing you.
No, all good. Oh, you only get a certain amount of challenges, and away we go.
I think it's going to be one of the most entertaining additions to the game.
The fans are
of
going to be like,
all time.
oh, just like in tennis. I love that. Oh,
freaking awesome.
And, oh, it was a ball.
It'll put
that's
some
fun.
fans in check. We've all been to playoff games where the pitch is off the plate and fans are like, ah! And
You're
we're
going to
like,
be at home. Challenge it. Challenge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's going to be more entertaining.
It's going to be awesome, though, because most
I
people
don't-
can see the zone.
I don't
better
like
than
getting buzzed
umps.
in. Don't buzz. Don't buzz anybody. The only thing I want buzz is the top of my head sometimes. That's
When
it.
we're watching TV, though, we see the zone better than umpires do. Fact or fiction?
Depends on who's watching.
I don't know. I don't
Really?
agree with that. The angles are different at different stadiums.
Sometimes it's coming this way, and not
we
closer.
get enamored with that box.
Yeah,
like
the
box isn't
exactly.
the box isn't end all be all.
Yeah, it's good.
I don't know if we see it differently.
Sorry.
I may see it better.
All right, well, we're going to find out. I think I'm right most of the time, and so do most fans. So Challenge system's coming. This is the first step. Great reporting from Evan Drellick in his story in The Athletic. And FT fam, that's it. You got a few bonus minutes from us. Happy Friday. We will see you tomorrow night, 7:15 Eastern time. Please join us. Join us live. We will interview some VIPs in baseball, current and past. See you then.
One more sleep.